Hey guys, I just wanted to take a few minutes to talk to you about your project proposals. I've just finished grading all of the proposals. I went through them and I had hoped to get them to you sooner, but they take quite a bit of time. But as I was going through there were some common themes that I wanted to address that will hopefully help you guys in the next submission of this in the final proposal, okay? Um, the first section of let me just go over the paper in general. APA format is required. For the most part, that wasn't a huge issue, but be cognizant of your reference pages. Make sure they are in the correct format. You are providing your abstract in the correct format as well, in your headers and things. So just be cognizant of that. I know we addressed a lot of that in the APA template that you guys did earlier in the semester, but just be sure you have everything addressed. Okay. Now, I'll just go through the sections of the proposal and talk about some issues in each section. The abstract. Remember to insert your keywords underneath the bottom. That is part of the research proposal. Also, keep it evidence-based. I would avoid language that is more general. A research proposal is very quantifiable and evidence-based. Meaning your language should be less rosy and flowery, and it should be sticking to the facts kind of thing. So just remember that when you're addressing your abstract, and also throughout your paper, it should be less about. I know that a lot of you guys are doing research on yourself, but it should be less about you and yourself and more about why this is an evidence-based research project, and continuously tying it back to the research that is existing on this as a good reason why you chose this particular topic. So keep that in mind as you're going through the paper. But that was the first place I kind of saw that trend in the abstract. Now, let's go to the introduction first. In the introduction, I understand you're providing a general overview of the topic, but a lot of you guys have factual information in that introduction section, which is rightfully so. It should be there because your research is based on evidence and facts. However, you have to cite any kind of reference to a fact in your introduction. If you say studies show blah 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 blah, you need a citation. You can't just say it. You can't just generally say that because none of that is common knowledge. The stuff that you guys are addressing is not common knowledge. So anything that's not understood by everyone has to be cited. Okay, and I know that leads to a lot of citations, but that's part of a research project. If you think you have too many citations, you're probably on the right track. Just keep that in mind. Also, in your introduction, this is your first ability to sell your concept. So you don't have to go into great detail about your the research that backs it up. I mean, you should have some factual evidence in there, but it's your first real chance to tell the reader why this is important, right? Okay, so keep that in mind. Research question. I think for the most part, a lot of you guys were pretty on par with the research question. I saw a lot of lack of measurable outcomes. Okay, meaning, let's use me as an example. One I've used before is, will rock music affect my sleep duration? Okay, so in my research question, I should not just address that and say, will rock music affect my sleep duration? That's very broad and it's not measurable whatsoever. So a good research question would say something like, does listening to 30 minutes of rock music daily increase my sleep duration daily? Or does increase sleep duration daily? So you've got measurement in there. You can clearly see that I'm providing 30 minutes of rock music every day, and then I'm measuring my sleep duration every day. So keep that in mind when you're revising. And I made a lot of notes to you guys about measurements in your research questions. So be sure to put those tidbits and parts of your research project into that individual question. Okay, so by reading that, the reader should clearly understand what exactly your intervention will be and what exactly your behavior is that you're trying to measure and how you're going to do it. Now, it's not going to be super specific. It's just one question, but they should get a clear picture. They should be able to know, based on that research question, what they're going to read in the methods section, basically, and what they're going to see there as far as your design. Okay. All right. So be sure and keep that measurable. And you can go into some additional information talking about your dependent and independent variables. That's good quality information to add in there. Now, literature review. Now, this was one of the most sections I spent the most time on with you guys. Now, I kind of saw a wide range of things in as far as number of sources and things. And I got some questions before the paper was due about how many sources do you want to see? Well, I don't like to give people a set number of sources, because what happens is that you will find that number of sources and then that's it. Well, depending on your topic, the number of sources that you use is topic dependent. So you have to use the number of sources that it takes for you to accurately explain. Now, generally, when we're looking at a literature review, we're looking at broad concepts from very broad concepts such as your independent and your dependent variable. We're looking at them individually and then funneling the research down to where the two meet. So you're basically taking on your reader on a little journey that's going to take them from understanding, like in my example earlier about rock music and its effect on individuals, and then I'm going to look at sleep and sleep and lack thereof does for us, and then I will funnel it down to see the research that connects the two. So you're taking them on a little journey, help them understand, because if you're looking at just the research of where your two concepts meet, you're missing all the other stuff. You're not providing the reader with a good overview of where this stands in the spectrum of things. Like, in all reality, there's a lot of things that affect sleep positively and negatively, other than rock music. So you have to provide that overview to your reader. You have to, in your journey, you have to show them how you got to this particular concept, why you think it's important, how research shows that it's important, and that it's a good variable to study. So without a good quality research literature review, your research has limited reliability and validity, because believe it or not, the literature review has a lot to do with the quality of your research. If you don't have any kind of research to back up why you use that intervention, why you use this specific intervention, like why did I choose 30 minutes a day, I would have to back that up with some type of research that has shown that 30 minutes of music per day could positively influence sleep of some sort, or positively influence body function. So you could kind of like infer that this could be useful in sleep. So you kind of have to make that connection. So when you're only providing bits and pieces of the two, it really limits the impact it can have on your research. And at the end, it's going to have a significant issue in the reliability and validity of your project, because that's really how you sell it. Like I said in the introduction, that's your first ability to kind of sell why this is important. Well, your literature review is really one of the biggest parts that tells the reader why this is a very important concept. And this is an advanced level research class, so I expect an advanced level of literature review to happen for this research. Now, I know depending on your topic, there might be a limited number of research studies out there. I do ask for peer-reviewed. If you can't find peer-reviewed, I'll stick to journals or credible websites, meaning like government websites, those kind of things that provide highly credible information. Okay, so you could broaden your search a little bit to help you kind of find the research you need. And like I said, it's not about, I'm not counting the number of your references. But I just want to see, as I'm reading your literature review, that you are providing good quality research information to support what you're doing. So we need to feel like you had enough information to show, okay, well, based on all that research out there, I can see exactly why you want to look at this particular subject. Okay. All right. So, and I know that may take some time in revisions, and literature reviews are very time consuming, and I understand. But as you submit your next proposal, I've given you guys feedback on those literature reviews, so I hope you'll take it to heart and make some major changes for the final proposal. Okay. And if you have questions about my particular comments on your literature review or any parts of the project, please contact me. I'll be happy to talk about it. We can, schedule a time, during the day, in the evenings, on weekend, whatever works for you guys, and we'll have a more detailed discussion about your paper individually. Okay. All right. As far as methods section, this is the part of the paper where you address, who your particular client. And I know a lot of you guys are doing self-study, a single subject on your own self, which makes it kind of an awkward situation. But typically in this section, you would talk about your subject in the third part, well, in this particular section, if you're writing about yourself, you need to write about yourself in third person, okay? You would be providing demographic information about your client, but not identifiable information. So since you're doing this on yourself, it needs to be written in third person, and you need to limit the amount of personally identifiable information that you put in there, meaning stick to the facts, age, sex, anything relevant to the study, but not providing a lot of detailed information about, why you think this is important for you. Because in research, this is not about the subject. Personally, it's about what the research says about the particular topic and how it may help this individual. Okay, so we can't bring personal aspects into that section. Okay, yeah, but be sure you are providing some of that demographic data as far as age, sex, that kind of thing. It needs the intervention. This is the section where you would tie your intervention back to evidence. Sorry, guys, to evidence. Like I said, in my particular example of 30 minutes a day, this is where I could talk about, evidence has shown in the multiple studies, that 30 minutes may be a proper threshold of music to listen to for any effects on bodily function, and then provide my citations. Citations are required anytime you're providing evidence-based facts. So that goes not only for the introduction, but it can happen in your methods section as well. So keep those in mind. And when you're describing your methods, you also need to talk about what type. Is it AB, ABA? What type of research project are you looking at? Is it single subject? Is it group design? I know it's kind of implied, but you need to say it, okay? Also when you're describing your intervention, we need it in great detail. If you're just saying, I'm going to listen to 30 minutes of music, or I'm going to listen to music daily, well, that's not enough detail. We need to say 30 minutes of music daily. When are you going to listen to it? What time of day? Where? What's your setting? Provide all that information. You're basically painting a picture for someone to see exactly how this research is conducted, okay? That kind of leads us into the data collection. When you're collecting your data, you have to have clear, quantifiable ways that you're collecting your data. Like if you're using an Apple Watch or a Fitbit to collect sleep data, you need to talk about that measure. You need to talk about how it works, how it calculates it, what it calculates, how often it calculates. And for those of you using Fitbits and Apple Watches, you have to also think about the impact of charging time. They have to be charged every, I know my Apple Watch has to be charged daily, or at least every day and a half. So how is that going to affect, your using it for tracking of various things? So keep that in mind as you're doing it. Think about all the things that have to happen. And when you are doing your data collection, specifically you have to provide your measurements. Like if you're logging, we need a copy of your log in as an appendix to your final proposal. Okay, if you are tracking maybe stress based on some kind of instrument, or it might be something that you've developed to track your, to measure your stress daily. You have to provide that as an appendix in the final proposal as well. So you have to have something developed to show. If you're using a standardized measure, I would still, meaning like an existing like anxiety survey out there that has been used in research before. You still need to provide an example of that in with the research that increases. And if you use an existing measure, it definitely increases the reliability and validity of your research because it is existing and been used in previous research, or it may be used in practice. So keep those things in mind when you're measuring your, maybe like things like stress or anxiety or things like that. But and you have to be as specific as possible. How are you going to collect the data? How often are you going to measure it? How often are you going to log it? How often, you have to show every single step. So think about breaking it down into every single step, okay? And I noticed some of you guys provided information about limitations of the research. That's not really something you discuss in methods or in your data collection section. That'll be saved for the discussion section of the final proposal. Remember, we talked about initially this proposal just covers certain parts, your abstract, your introduction, your literature or your research question, your literature review, methods, and your data collection. From there, once your data is collected, we'll go through and provide a discussion section and kind of a wrap up of the a results section, wrap up of the data. So those sections will be contained in the final submission of the paper. So just kind of save that, but it doesn't belong right in these sections right now. So I know this is kind of a lengthy video, but I thought it was important to help you guys understand kind of the reasoning behind some of the questions that I had, or the comments that I provided for your research proposals. I hope this is helpful to you guys. And like I said, if you have individual questions about your paper, do not hesitate to call me or email me, and we will schedule a time for us to get together and discuss it. I'm happy to do that. I'm not scary at all. But yeah, you guys just contact me and we'll address it. And because I want you guys to be successful in your research. And if you have questions about things you're doing now as far as data collection of your baseline data, I know all you should be doing your baseline data or possibly moving into your intervention, depending how long you did, you identified your baseline as. So if you have questions as you're going along that, please don't hesitate to call me, email me, and we'll get them straightened out. That's about all I have for you, but I hope this is helpful, and happy data collection. I hope it goes well. So if you have any questions, contact me. Thanks. Bye-bye.